Hello and welcome to Anxious But Unbothered, your not-so-typical lifestyle podcast where each week you will hear how a recovering hypochondriac with a touch of OCD and a pinch of narcissism navigates the world of wellness. I'm your host, Katie Brunick, so please grab a mocktail or a green juice and welcome to the shit show. Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. This channel and video concept will coincide with my podcast, which is streaming exclusively on Spotify. I will be sure to put a link on the bottom. So if you are so inclined to check out that, you can. So I decided to add a visual concept to the podcast because I always find that it gives more of an intimate feel when you can actually see the person that is speaking as opposed to just listening. For those of you who are new or don't know my story at all, I will give a little insight to my life and why I got sober in the first place. So I had been drinking since I was around the age of 18, and it got progressively worse and just started to impact my life a lot. Again, I will link all the different podcasts that explain this in greater detail. I was at the lowest place that I had ever been mentally, and I didn't really know a way out. I tried to read all the wellness books. I tried to be as physically healthy as I could. I tried every different fad to try to get my mind right, but I realized that the one thing that was really holding me back and what I describe as my Achilles heel was alcohol. There was always the connection of alcohol linked to my bad behavior, linked to just my overall sense of well-being. So I decided to stop drinking, and I couldn't afford to take time off of work. I couldn't afford a $30,000 to $50,000 a month rehab, so I thought that I would try a 12-step meeting. Now, I had no intention going in to stop drinking at all. I more was just so desperate, and I just wanted to feel better that I was willing to try anything. So the 12-step meetings really clicked for me. I mean, I ended up going to it for 18 months, and honestly, I could say that without a doubt, it saved my life. For one, it made me realize that I had a serious problem, but that I wasn't alone. I learned that just because I hadn't lost everything, just because I still had a job, my family, friends, I was never arrested, nothing quote unquote bad happened to me. But when I shared my story and when I really made an inventory of the friends I lost, from the opportunities that I lost, from just how I was feeling deep down, I realized how much alcohol actually did impact me. So for one, it just made me realize that I was an alcoholic and am an alcoholic, that my brain is different from people who are non-alcoholics, people who can drink normally. And the other thing, it was a good replacement. So the time that I would be drinking, I was at a meeting. Typically, I didn't wake up in the morning to drink. I didn't drink at work. I didn't drink before work. But it was always after work, around 5 p.m. I felt like I deserved a drink. And it wasn't just one drink. It was like on a slow night, maybe 3 or 4 drinks. But on a night when I was going all out, it could have been upwards of 10 to 12 drinks, which is a lot. So the meetings filled that placeholder for me. So I just knew that every day I would come home from work and go to a meeting, and then by the time I got home, I didn't want to drink at all. And the last really big aspect of 12-step meetings was the connection that it had. Sobriety, early sobriety, I mean, when you're drinking, early sobriety, late sobriety, and just life in general can be very lonely. So there are multiple meetings at many hours of the day, and I don't think I ever went to a meeting where there was less than 5 people. So if I ever felt sad, if I ever felt triggered to drink, I could go to a meeting and feel that sense of connection. So in that way, I loved it, and I found it really helpful. And I also don't want this podcast to deter anyone from seeking help. I wanted to start the podcast by giving all the positives because it's a transformative program which saves hundreds of thousands of people's lives and have kept them sober long term. So you're probably wondering, why would I want to get rid of a good thing? Why would I want to stop a good thing? So to explain why, I need to go back to when I celebrated a year. So every month in your first year of sobriety with a 12-step program, they work on a chip system. It's very nice, and it's quite the accomplishment. It was quite the accomplishment for me, someone who couldn't go a few days without drinking, to continue to hit the milestones of sobriety. So I was so excited to get a year, but then after that, I went from being elated to almost having this overwhelming sense of dread. I'm turning 32 in a month, so I'm still fairly young, and I still felt as if alcohol had its claws in me. At the meetings, you typically speak about alcohol, your sobriety, you read and talk about the steps, and then you read literature based on the program. So something that I'm trying to overcome and not have a part of my life, I was discussing every day at the meetings. And I don't want anything to control me, but the fact that it was still a constant thought in my head scared me, because I don't want to be thinking about it for the rest of my life. I want to move on, and I want to find new hobbies and interests and relationships that's not surrounded by the one thing that I can't do. So the next aspect of it was the language of the literature. So the specific program that I was a part of started in or around 1939, and it was created by 2 men. So the language has a very patriarchal connotation, and without getting too into the details of it, I'm sure you can look online and read it yourself if you want. It just had a very patriarchal feel that wasn't aligned with my beliefs or the life that I live. So it was very uncomfortable to read text, and just to read text, to absorb text, to follow these steps based on the wording of the literature. But what you always hear in meetings is that to take what you want, to take what you like, and leave the rest, which was very helpful to me at first, because there was a lot of aspects that I did not agree with, but I thought, hey, it's helping me, so let's just take what works and leave the rest. But especially after I hit a year, it was just harder for me to do, and it felt more and more inauthentic each passing day. So then I started to only go to speaker meetings, but I didn't go to any meetings based on the steps or literature, but there was just, my heart wasn't in it. And then the final aspect, which to me is the most important, was fear. So I realized after much thinking and reflecting. And also, I just want to say that this was not an overnight decision. I know how big of an impact the 12 steps and the 12-step programs had on me maintaining my sobriety for the past 18 months, and I really don't want to do anything to put my sobriety in danger. So this has been a very thoughtful process on my part. But what I realized was that I was staying in the 12-step program out of fear. I was so nervous of a relapse if I left that I continued to stay in the program, even though I didn't believe the messages that were being said. And it just got to the point where it just didn't feel fair to the people in the rooms who truly believe in everything that it said, and it didn't feel right with me, and it didn't feel authentic to me. So while there are other reasons why I decided to stop going to meetings, which I might discuss at a later time, those were the biggest roadblocks for me, and the biggest questions that I had on whether or not I wanted to move forward. And the really good part about 12-step meetings is that the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. So if I decide that I want to go back to a meeting, then I am pretty much certain that I will be welcomed back with open arms by the majority of the people. And that's pretty cool to have. I used to live in such a black and white world, and my mentality was really much all or nothing. But I realized that I'm just like everyone, we're able to change our mind. We don't know what the future holds. I might have an idea of what I want it to look like, but we have no control over the future. So there might come a time when I need to go to a meeting, and if that's the case, I'll go. But it just felt important to share because I have been speaking about my sobriety journey for over a year now, and it felt like the authentic next step. I'm really excited to do this new visual aspect of the podcast and just experiment, because this is one thing that when I was going to meetings, I really didn't have a lot of time for my hobbies or to find new interests that I like. So I'm really excited to start to learn how to use a camera and just to see how this brand and business will expand. So that's all for today. I want to thank you all for tuning in and watching the first ever video on my YouTube channel. Until next time, stay curious.